Hi guys, and welcome to today's episode of Sisgetagrip.
I don't know where that came from, sorry.
It's just the grip spirit.
Grip.
Don't enter here. Grip. No, stop. But as always, thanks for joining us.
Yes,
we appreciate you guys. If you're new, welcome. I hope that you like it here and you're gonna join the family by hitting that subscribe button on the bottom.
Subscribe.
Okay, so today's topic, we are going to be talking about 7 things you need to know before you get married.
7.
Just 7.
7 is a good number. 7 is the Lord's
I was
number.
just going to say that. So just these 7 things, okay? And the reason why we came up with this topic is because we realized that marriage is so glamorized, or like relationships. You see people and they're like a nice couple and they're taking pictures and it's like, wow, like that's so nice. But what they don't tell you is that marriage, relationships are hard work. So we're going to tell you 7 things that we think that you must absolutely include in your relationship to make them work. Okay.
Should I start?
Yes, I might.
Okay. So the first one is to give 100% at all times. And I actually find this to be very interesting because growing up, I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, it's a 50-50 relationship, like equal this, equal that, equal whatever. But this is more so like giving 100% at all times in the relationship, for the perspective that no matter what you're getting from the other person, your spouse, your partner, however you define yourself in this relationship, like your husband or your wife, you as the individual should be given 100% at all times. Because when you're given 100%, you can say, I've done my best. I gave my all. And God forbid, if this relationship doesn't work, not marriage, if this relationship doesn't work, you can walk away confidently, say like, I gave 100%. But more so in a marriage, when you're given 100%, at least from the few years I've been married, I've learned that giving 100% in a marriage is giving your all. So no matter what comes your way, like you are working towards a solution towards your problem. You are working towards making that marriage work. My husband and I always say like, what is the end goal? And the end goal for us is to be married. For sure. So always giving 100%.
Yes, and 100%, I know what will prevent you from giving 100%. So like somebody who's like been brokenhearted, somebody who's like been through a lot, where now you go into a next relationship because of your previous experiences, you're reserved. Like, I'm going to give like a little bit just in case my heart is broken. I can take the little percent that I didn't give and like, invest it in something else. But the truth of the matter is if you want a relationship to work, you can give a little bit of yourself.
Yes.
And when we were discussing this, we had discussed like a plant analogy. Like if you get a plant, and marriages or like relationships are this beautiful plant given to us by God, and we have to do our best to, like, your intention is not for the plant to die.
Yes.
Your intention is for the plant to grow and be beautiful and like get to experience the benefits of having this plant. So you gotta water it, you gotta take care of it. You can't just, it's like, marriage is not a cactus. Like you can just leave it unwatered. Like it's not that.
That is so good, because cactus is spiky and you don't want a spiky marriage.
Girl, that too. Yes.
That's actually really good.
And cactus doesn't need much watering, but marriage needs work. Like you gotta trim the excess. I'm not a gardener by any means, but I know
you sound like one though.
Maybe I should get into it. I do like the hat and the little gloves that come with
Lord.
it. But you have to take care of it. You have to nurture it. You have to be intentional, and you have to give it 100%.
Yes.
Unless you don't want it to work. If you're like, you're the kind of person who have like people in the back burner, like, you got a lot of different options. Yes, you got options, you got stuff in different baskets. Like if that's your thing, then I'm not condoning it, but good for you. But if you are trying to make something work, a relationship, this is the person I want to be with, you have to 100%. You have to give it 100%.
At all times.
Yes.
At all times.
This next point is never assume or judge. When in doubt, simply ask. You want to go ahead.
I'm laughing because I've always been an assumption maker. The husband calls me a great story writer.
I think all women.
Like, I think it's a female thing, but I really have learned to just ask questions because I want to say I'm blessed to have a husband who's just a straight shooter. Like, he just tells it as it is. And he's just like, had you just asked me instead of going to write a book in your head. That's what he says to me. Instead of going to write a book in your head, like, we wouldn't be where we are. And usually when he says that over and we're having that conversation, it's just like, I've blown up. He's staring at me like, well, this is what's really going on. So
I thought you knew.
Yeah, like, never assume, like, never make the assumptions because it doesn't lead to a good place, especially when you have a husband or a wife that's just saying, ask. Like, that is the most beautiful thing to have in a relationship, in a marriage, when the person is just saying, ask me and I'll give you the answer. Don't walk around with assumption, because I also think one thing I learned when we were dating was I walked around with a lot of assumptions, never wanted to hear an answer, and it grew a lot of bitterness in me. And had I just simply asked, like he always said, I wouldn't have been so bitter about things that, like, now when I look back on, I don't need to be bitter about. So that's why I started laughing, because I am a great assumption story writer.
No, I'm the same way. And so, like, an example for me would be, like, we had a situation, like, I've been with Jeff for forever, but we had this major breakup. And when we got back together, I was like, everything was like, he'll be in his phone and I'll be like, so if I saw him in his phone, like, already I knew who was texting, I knew what the conversation, I'll be walking around the house like, okay. And I'm like going off because, like, I also have like a overactive imagination. Like, in my mind, you guys are talking, you're going to link up, it's probably going to be an IHOP because it's breakfast time. Like, I am making up the story as I go, okay? So, like, and I'm like creating this phase, and now I'm mad at the story that I created in my head, and I'm going on with it. And this imaginary story will cramp my day. Like, my whole day is messed up. That's all I'm thinking about. Now I'm mad because, like, I'm adding stories to it. And maybe nothing. Just cut it
nothing.
and ask. It's probably a text from T-Mobile saying that they upgraded the internet service. I don't know, but it could be anything. But right now, you don't know. You've made up a story. You're mad. Your attitude was nasty around the house, and, like, you've made the environment weird by your assumption. So if you, when in doubt, ask.
All right, next one is, don't speak negatively about your partner. So I was listening to, like, a marriage counselor per se. Like, I try to do that often. And he gave such an amazing example, and I was just like, wow. Granted, I don't speak negatively of the husband, like, just because I feel like I need to uphold a standard, like, for how people, like, view my husband.
Sure.
But more so importantly, the respect I give my husband is the respect other people are going to give him. So if I already don't respect him, especially in the public space, why should I expect the next person to? But
it's a good one.
This marriage counseling thing I was listening to was the example they gave was, okay, so this guy is dating and he says, like, oh, this girl is stupid, she doesn't know how to cook, blah blah blah, right? In the heat of the moment, that is how he's describing his girlfriend. A week later, this guy is seen with his friends, and seen by his friends with this girlfriend that he was just talking negatively about. And now your friends, like the guy's friends, are questioning, like, well, you just said Mary Jo was crazy and didn't know how to cook and da-da-da, but yet you are here standing with her. So he said, in the midst of making your partner look bad, you're also making yourself look bad, because you're making yourself seem unstable. And he ended it off with, who wants to be associated with an unstable person? Oh. And I was just like,
that's a good one.
Yeah, like, not only do I make the person I'm with look bad, I also look bad because one day I love you, one day I can't stand you, can't cook, and you don't know how to look good. Like, it's just never a good look. And one thing I've always learned is that whenever there's anything going wrong, and unless if there's someone that I truly can confide in, I will not go to anyone else. Like, I rather just sit. This is gonna sound crazy. I rather just sit in my situation and pray about it, and then try to work it out with the husband.
Yeah. Like, nobody should know your business unless it's like a trusted person, because like, or a counselor that is well versed in that, because they can remove themselves from the situation, and even after you've gone back and been with your partner, they can maintain a neutral perspective. Because some friends, or like some of the people that we talk to, they don't have the maturity level to remove themselves from the situation after it's gotten better. They can only see it in the negative light. And Beyonce has a song, if you hurt me, you hurt yourself. It's called Don't Hurt Yourself.
I know it.
Okay, that's a good song. But if basically you think you're hurting me by going around and talking about me, but you're hurting yourself because now you look crazy, or you just look like how comfortable am I trusting you with what I'm doing with you, because I run that risk of you going back and telling other people. So if you can do this to your wife who you claim to love, how much more me? It's a reflection of yourself, your friendships, and like everybody's looking at you like with one eye open, because you got a loose mouth.
Yeah, wow, we got a loose mouth. I also want to like make sure we highlight that we're not speaking of this like, don't talk negatively about your partner in the sense like, oh, if you're being physically or emotionally abused, you keep that to yourself. Like, let's make that very clear. Like, you should like seek out help for that, but more importantly, like, we are saying that like, don't speak negatively about your partner in the sense of like, in the heat of the moment, like, you just want to go off and you want to go off in front of your friends or your family. One thing I learned from that counseling video I watched too was, don't actually, and I'm still grappling with this to see if I fully agree with it, but the counselor was saying, don't go to your pastor or your friends.
That was interesting.
Yeah, don't go to your pastor or your friends, but actually go to your parents. So let's say the parents. So let's say the husband and I get in an argument. I should report him, quote unquote, report him to his parents. I'm still grappling with that, but the reason why he said not to go to your pastor or your friends obviously, because your friends will look at your partner in a negative light, your husband in a negative light, wife, either one, in a negative light, but also the pastor, because from what this counselor was saying, like, a pastor kind of like makes the person feel as they've sinned, and the truth is, and the truth is, an argument in a marriage or a relationship is not a sin. It's a growing, at least that's how I took it. Like,
I hadn't thought of it like that.
Right? So and I'm not saying all pastors do this, I'm just repeating what I heard and how I interpreted it and what I'm still grappling with understanding. Like, so obviously share your thoughts with us too, but a pastor in this situation may make the person feel as if they've sinned, when the truth is they shouldn't make them feel as if they've sinned. It should be more so as of like, wow, this is an issue you're both going through together, not this is an issue you, the individual, has caused one to the other. So I'm still working on like tell the parents things, because for me, I love my in-laws to think I'm great and beautiful, and I don't argue with their sons. So why would I go tell them otherwise?
That is true.
So that's the part where I'm still like grappling with. Like, will I tell my mother-in-law? Which I will say, like, in the past, I have had conversations with my mother-in-law pertaining to the husband. Like, like I definitely have, and trust and believe, the mothers, they step in.
Say that again.
They step in.
Shout out to Ma Joyce. We appreciate you.
Like, my mother-in-laws are like, what? I can't describe how much I love them, because it's like they will definitely tell me when I'm wrong.
That's a fact.
But more importantly, they check their sons, and I love it.
Yeah. Like, word of.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's a fact. I had a similar experience when we were dating, where like I had this big issue and it was just difficult, and I was actually advised not to do this, but I spoke to my mom about it, and like we had a conversation. She was like, if you feel like that's what you need to do, it's going to give you that closure you need, go ahead, because I felt like that was my last resort.
It usually is my last resort.
Yeah, too. And so I went and we had a conversation, and she gave me some advice, very solid woman, and she's wise as an owl. Like, she's very neutral. She doesn't give it from a judgmental point of view. It's very neutral, and she was able to give me advice to deal with the situation and also have a conversation with her son, who's now my husband. And like, it was just that information coming from his mother changed things, because this conversation we've had over and over and over and over again. But when Mama stepped in,
it's different. It is different.
It does hit different.
It just is different.
But it depends on the kind of mother-in-laws you have, because I've heard of some.
I have, and that's what I'm really grateful for.
Me too, girl.
Like, I have, and that's why I said, like, I'm still grappling with that, because not everyone is fortunate enough to have those relationships with their in-laws. So, like, are you willing to go and tell them about something? I know, like,
it's true.
My mom is head over heels for my husband. Like, she called him babe the other day. I was like,
too far. Time
slow your roll, y'all. Cool. Slow your roll. But she does it from like a genuine love of place. Like, she calls all of us baby, and she says, like, my husband is her son. So like, she like, that's where she was doing it from. But we were joking around, like, slow your roll, calm down. And kind of was like, I'm all yours. Kind of the husband. But like, my mom is also like that, where like, she's extremely neutral. Like,
yes.
To the point where sometimes, like, hi,
it's like, whose side are you on?
I'm your daughter. But I think I say that to say, like, it depends on what your relationships are with your in-laws. Like, if you want to go that route. But
for sure,
definitely just take that into perspective. Like,
yes,
who are you going to confine in these kind of moments?
Yeah, and who's going to give you like a neutral perspective? Because I think it comes down to a place of neutral grounds. Because some parents, like, you know, may not be comfortable with you coming to give bad information or like misinformation about their child. They might take it the wrong way, or like they might even question you, like, why are you coming to me? Why can't you work it out? So engage your relationships. Like, Gifty and I are fortunate to like be in a situation like that, but definitely seek, if the parents are not, you don't have a relationship with them, definitely reach out to maybe the pastors.
Yeah.
Because they also are trained. Most pastors, I think, they teach that in Bible school, I hope.
I pray.
are like well versed in how to execute that conversation. But if different people, different things.
Yes.
Try what works for you.
Yes. This is usually what we say. Like, definitely try to see what works for you. Once again, we've been married for only but a few years. So
yes.
This is just what we've experienced.
We're new to this too.
Yeah.
So the next point is continue to fall in love every day. Yes. And my spiritual father actually taught me this. When we came back from our honeymoon, he was like, this is marriage. Sustain the honeymoon. Like, don't fall below that honeymoon stage. So as you came back and you're all giddy and you're all happy and it's like, sustain the honeymoon, because that is marriage. Like, you may have heard otherwise, but honeymoon is marriage. Anything that falls below it isn't. So like, try to keep up the honeymoon stage. So I think that make a conscious effort to fall in love. It's not easy when somebody is like leaving the toilet seats up. I don't know. Yeah, because sometimes you just be like, gosh, is this what I signed up for?
Sure
is this forever? No, but when those times get difficult, that's when you need to try a little harder, because that's when you need it. Like, you don't need to get your car serviced when there's nothing going on with it. It's when it starts having issues that you're like, I need to put in effort to make it better, because you want to sustain that. Same for the marriage, the relationship. If you want it to work, you have to put in effort, and you have to love every day, and you have to make an effort. When it's getting boring, something spontaneous, just think about it and take a drive and go to a different neighborhood that you haven't been before and go scout out houses.
That's what you guys do, right?
Oh God. and you know, pour oil on the land and receive your blessings. That's right, girl. I don't know, whatever you do to keep it funky, you don't got to do that.
Yeah, I know, like, one thing the husband and I do, and we haven't done so much because like COVID and stuff, but we used to faithfully, and we could do this because my mom is like super like, bring Harper over, you guys deserve time for yourself. But we used to set date nights for ourselves where like we would just go out like as if we were dating and just hang out.
That's beautiful.
And like, I think that has helped our marriage a lot, because sometimes like in the midst of like work, career, and family and kids and like all these things, you kind of lose yourself and forget about the other person. Sure. And like when we realized that, because he was just like, oh, you used to pick out restaurants for us to go eat. And in my head, I'm like, I'm trying to save money. I want to be a millionaire. He's like, no.
That
like,
too.
He's like, no, like we need to continue to do those things. So like, I would say like definitely make an effort, as Stacey said, to try to maintain that honeymoon stage. And even if it's like going on a date, because of COVID, we don't go outside anymore, but we try to watch movies together.
That's nice.
I fall asleep, but still, I'm in your presence. We're working towards the staying up part, but like, try to do things together. Like,
for sure.
Even if, like, if Harper's taking a nap, we just try to like sit and have lunch together to talk. Like, those little things I think really help with the idea of like making sure you fall in love every day. And like, I've learned, we did this when we were dating, where we used to say like, I love you. Like, make sure we don't get into arguments and continue to stay in the argument to the next day. Like, we try to really like work on that before like 12 o'clock the next day. So like, just those little things I think will like make you continuously fall in love with your partner.
For a fact. And you said that like perfectly. Like, you really need to be intentional about these dates, because you'll drift apart.
Yes.
And it doesn't take much. Like, you think like, oh, we'll do it next week, and before you know it, a week turns into a month turns into some more months, and then it's a year, and it's 2 years, and it's 3 years, and you guys have never been on a date for the past 3 years.
Yes. Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
And ladies look so cute that he just be like, wow. Because I remember, like, once again, before pre-COVID world, like when we were going on dates, like I will actually like get dressed up. Not like I'm gonna put jeans on like we're going to the mall. Like, I will dress up because
get your hair done.
Yeah, and done. Like I will do quote unquote the most, because I wanted him to realize what a regular day was with me and what a date night was in our marriage. Like, I want, aside from that, like, I still want to think I'm beautiful and sexy and those things.
Of course.
But I want him to like be able to distinguish, like, this night is different from any other night in our marriage.
And you remember back in the days before, like, when you were in the dating stages where you used to shave your legs, do your eyebrows because you were about to link up. Like, try to recreate that. Like, try to get your hair done. Put some curls in there, get your nails done, make sure you wear some, make sure like you're not looking like every day, like you said, jeans and like, you know, I'm just gonna stop by. Like, put in some effort, shush things up.
Yeah, I agree. The next one is don't keep score, especially of the past.
Oh gosh.
I must say, I'm not a scorekeeper per se, but I am a scorekeeper of the past. And I've stopped. I've been like delivered and healed from it.
Thank you, Jesus. So I gotta shout again this episode.
Just because it can be very hard. It can be very easy to be triggered to the past. You're like, oh, remember when you did, or remember when you did. And I've learned to train myself to not go to that stage of remember when you did da da da, because that is keeping score. And there's this I wish I remember the scripture off the top of my head, where it's like, love is patient, love is kind. It does not.
Corinthians 13.
Corinthians 13, right? Like, that scripture basically is like, in my head when I think of it now, it's like, it's telling you what love is, and love does not keep track of wrongs. Yeah.
I just actually saw a meme, funny enough, like a couple of days ago.
She loves memes, if you don't know.
I do love memes. Send them. It was saying that her mom told her that in this scripture, if you can't put your partner's name should be able to replace love. Like, Jeff is kind. Jeff does not keep track of wrong. He does not boast. He does, like, you know, if you can't replace your partner's name and like, forget it. I was gonna say pronoun, but that is a pronoun. If you can't replace his name and pronoun in that scripture, it's a no. Like, if this is obviously, if your husband doesn't fit it, that's too late. But if you are dating, like, that could be a little criteria to try.
Granted, the husband's great, so. But I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, of course he is.
Yeah,
I'm telling you now that he is, so it's fine. Don't even go read the scripture. You're fine. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting because I think I struggle with this one a lot, especially earlier, because again, we had that whole period where we broke up and like we got back together. So it was just kind of like getting over that hurt and that bitterness. So it was always like, well, last time this is how it went. So it was always keeping track of wrong. I would always pull stuff back, and I'm talking about like I got the archives. Like I'd be going down the little file. Like no, not that. Like literally, I will be pulling up files from like ages ago, and like I had to sit back one time and be like, what are you trying to achieve? Like what did you say? What is your end goal?
Yeah.
What is your end goal? Like are you trying to make this relationship work, or are you really trying to tank it? And at this point,
you're tanking it, girl.
Yeah. Like I need like I'm not doing the relationship any good by keeping these records and pulling out these records. Occasionally, like I'll bring something up, but I would immediately realize I'm like, you know what? I was wrong for bringing that up. It's not that serious. What can we do about it now? So keeping the situations very present and not like, you know, pulling the archives we have. And I know women, our brains has like departments. Like, okay, that time where, and we could pull up the whole dictionary if you really ask.
That's real. That's very real.
Our next point is normalize I love you and thank you.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times people get so familiar with one another. I was saying this, I have a supervisor in the past, and when she became familiar with me, it was just kind of like, this. Like, you know, they get familiar with you. Before they're very, dear, I'm your supervisor, and I'm going to tell you. And then, like, after they get familiar, and it's like, beep, 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 and it's like, you know. So when you get familiar with somebody, it's natural for you to let your guards down, but the basic level of politeness, thank you and please, or like, you know, I love you.
Yes.
You need to say that, because I don't know how to justify that. What you got?
Yeah. No, that is something we do in our household, to the point when my in-laws visited us, they actually would make fun of us because everything's like, I love you. All right, thank you, babe. Thank you. And I guess like it's actually not as common as we think. Like for us, it's just a level of respect, right? Like if I do something for you, like I'm not expecting you to say thank you, but I think I've been brought up, and we've both been brought up to just say thank you. So that's just how we speak to each other. Even with Harper, like now before we give her something, you have to say thank you or please. And I just think that's a decent way to treat someone. Yeah. So we carry that into our marriage, and like the I love you is just like, I love you. Like I want you to know that. And it's not like a cliche or anything, because I know like someone said that you can say I love you over and over and then it becomes a cliche. But then I love you can also be backed up with actions. I love you can also be backed up with your words of affirmation. So like, yeah, you can say I love you over and over, but if your actions don't like support that I love you, then do you really love me? And I think that's where that falls into place. Like, yeah, thank you is just common decency in our household, but like I love you is like back it up with actions. Do things that show that you love me. I'm not actually buying me flowers every day, but do things that you know like will help me around the house or something. And I think that's what in our household, that's how we like show I love you. And thank you is a must.
Yeah, and what you said actually got me thinking, because imagine somebody telling you I love you and they beat you up, they abuse you mentally or physically. Like, is that really love? Yes. So you can tell the difference between that I love yous. If you're saying I love you over and over, and like everything on your actions is shown the opposite, then do you really love me? But I think I love you is also like, we like to speak things into existence, right? Yes. And so like you want to prophesy your love, you want to say your love, you want to speak your love, and consistently remind yourself that, you know, love does exist. Because I know growing up, I didn't hear I love you enough. I say that over and over again, and it's to the point where when we got married, like I would be like you or like you. Like it was so hard for me to say the words I love you. Now I throw it everywhere. I'm like, Gifty, and before we get on the phone, we're like, I love you.
Talk to you later.
For sure. And you have to affirm those things, because it's not saying that if somebody doesn't tell you I love you, they don't love you. But get into the habit of just saying I love you, because love you want to be in love and you want to stay in love, and kind of giving yourself something to be accountable, consistently saying it, keeping it in your vocab. Harper will grow up to know I love you, and she won't be like me, like at 20 something saying I love you. Like,
so the next point is to lower your expectations, and I think we've actually discussed this before, where you shouldn't have the same expectations you have for your husband, your wife, your partner, as you do have for God, right?
For sure.
In those situations, that's when you often become extremely disappointed. Not extremely disappointed, but that's when you become disappointed. So don't go into a marriage and or a relationship with these extremely high expectations, especially if you haven't communicated those expectations to the person, but more so because you become disappointed. Like, people make mistakes. People are not perfect. Therefore, to have these extremely high expectations of a person that they cannot uphold is just setting yourself that is just setting yourself up for a disappointment that you may not emotionally and or physically be ready for. What do you have to add?
If it's up here, bring it all the way down here.
Yeah.
Because I'm a victim to that. Like, I used to watch a lot of Cinderella and, like, you know, those High School Musical, and the love stories are always nice. They're always giddy, and it's always... And very early, my husband talked that. He was like, whatever you got in your head, you watch too much movies, he always says. You watch way too much movies. And it will be like, you know, the kissing in the rain. And I'll be like, babe, we out to go kiss in the rain. He'd be like, well, you and who? Who I gotta go kiss in the rain? Like, stuff like that. So if you have these expectations of what it's going to be like when maybe somebody's gonna come around and open your door for you, and, like, you know, like, what is it? They take off their jacket and, like,
cold.
If you have those kind of expectations, now you're in a relationship and you're mad because, like, it's mad cold, and he's like, nope, I'm cold too. I'm cold too. And he's holding on to his jacket. Now you mad because he's not the gentleman that you had, like, fancied up in your mind. Your expectation of what a gentleman should be.
Yes.
Now you're sitting there cold and you mad because your
expectations were too high.
Exactly. And it could be for simple things to grand things. Just lower it all. Come with an open, expecting, like, think of it as an adventure. You don't know what to expect, but you have this thrill or this excitement for it, because that's what marriage is, or that's what relationships are.
Agree. Yeah.
You learn as you go, and don't come with expectation, because you might be disappointed and it won't be cute.
Yeah. And I think we should also make clear that there's a difference between expectation and standards, right? So expectations is more so like what you are always expecting and or expecting out of a relationship and or person. A standard is more like, if you do this, I just don't tolerate this. That's very different from an expectation and a standard. Yes. And I think it's okay to go into a relationship with standards, because
for
that
a
means
fact,
you know what you want for yourself. Therefore, sometimes you probably will get what you want and you won't be disappointed because expectations will be met. But I just wanted to make sure we distinguish what a standard is and what expectations are.
Yep, and they're two separate things.
Yes. So that is going to lead us to our reset that Stacey's going to start us off with.
Yes. So to recap, these are topics or pointers that you should consider heavily before going into marriage, because once you get into marriage, you're locked in. Yes. Or if you are in a marriage or a relationship already, these are things to just think about and try to incorporate into your marriage to make it better and sweet. So we talked about giving 100% all the time, never assume or judge. When in doubt, simply ask. 3, don't speak negatively about your partner. 4, continually fall in love every day. 5, don't keep score. Don't be like me. Don't keep score. 6, normalize saying I love you and thank you. 7 is lower the expectations. Bring it all the way low. Come with a heart of expectancy.
I like that.
That is our the points that we covered today, and we're just gonna go ahead and hit that reset. Go for it.
So the first one is, there's no such thing as a perfect person. Therefore, there's no such thing as a perfect marriage and or relationship. I know, like growing up, I heard people say like, "Oh, I have the perfect marriage," or "I've seen the perfect marriage. I want to emulate the perfect marriage." But the truth is like, and a relationship. But the truth is, it takes the individuals, the man and the woman in these relationships to make it work. Therefore, you have to create your own perfect. And that's one thing I've really learned, that like I cannot look at someone's relationship and or marriage and say like, that's what I want. I could have goals of being married for 52 years like some people I've known.
Beautiful.
But I cannot say everything they did step by step in their marriage is what I'm going to do. Because we are two different people. So like, definitely always have to understand that there's no perfect marriage. There's no perfect relationship. You as the couple have to find what perfect is for you.
Yes, and I actually want to add to that. The definition of perfect can change because our DSM-5 manuals change. The diagnosis for things change.
What's
DSM, the manual for diagnosis.
Oh,
at least for a psychologist.
Okay.
Yeah. So those manuals are changing. I think it started for 1, now it's all the way up to 5. Like the standards for things are changing because people evolve, people change. So like you can't. Let's say you came in with this is what perfect is. You had it in a cute little box. This is what perfect is for me. As time goes on, you can't change that definition of perfect. And it takes the two of you kind of going into it and saying, you know what, let's redefine that. Maybe not in conversation and pen and paper, but like it evolves with time.
Yes. Next one, please.
Relationship requires a conscious effort. You cannot sit there and be like, like a plant. You can't sit there and be like, it's going to take care of itself. It's going to work itself out. No, you have to go in there. You really have to work on it if you want it to grow. Otherwise, it's going to die. And who wants a dead relationship?
Yes. One thing to add to this, one thing I heard in one of like the marriage counseling things that I was like listening to is relationships require prayer, but aside from prayer, it requires your effort. So as you pray, you could pray to God and make my relationship work. What are you doing physically to also make your relationship work? And I think like this is just one of those things that it requires a conscious effort to continuously make things work.
For sure.
So yeah, you could pray. I pray.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if I've prayed and I haven't put no action to my prayer, then I cannot blame no one else. I can't blame God.
Yep.
But myself.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good point.
The next one is people change, but God doesn't.
Say that again.
I thought this was so impactful because I think you mentioned this a few minutes ago where people can change, people grow apart, people grow, people mature, like people enter different phases of their life all the time.
4 or 5.
The truth
I'm in a new phase now.
Yes. And the truth is God is the only person, the only God I know of that is consistent at all times.
Yeah.
And I say that to say like allow people to make mistakes. And yes, some mistakes may be more costly than others, but allow people to make mistakes and have forgiveness in your heart. Because one thing I've learned is when you forgive, you're able to move on. And yes, moving on takes time.
Lots of healing.
Do not hold people as their God. And therefore they are perfect and they cannot make mistakes.
Yep.
People change.
Say that again. I think you got to run that back. Say that again. Say that again.
People change, but God doesn't.
People change.
Do not hold your partner as a God. Because you will be extremely disappointed.
Yep.
Extremely disappointed.
Yep. And we sing about God's praises all the time. He never changed. He changed it up. Okay, I will stop with the singing. But again, you get the point. God is very consistent. He's ever present. He's perfect. Human beings, we're not. And so cut the person some slack and be open to some changes. I think you perfectly captured that. And I have no more to say for that.
And that's actually going to be it for our reset.
Yes.
So thank you guys for joining us in this video experience of Sis Get a Grip. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And as always, thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate you. And until next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.